It was supposed to be just another business trip. I've done this 1,000 times: board a flight, head to New York for meetings, pitch deals, meet clients, the usual. I was looking forward to the meetings, the possible collaborations, and the new opportunities on the horizon. Everything was going according to plan. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you are listening. Your support means everything. I had just signed a major deal, something that could take my tech company to the next level. As the CEO, I had worked harder than anyone I knew to get here, to earn the respect of investors, to make connections, to grow a brand from the ground up. I had climbed every rung of that ladder, never once letting anyone define my worth. I had paid my dues and kept proving myself. So when I walked onto that plane and made my way to first class, I did so with a sense of pride. This was a seat I had earned. I had done the work. I was the CEO of a successful company, not some random passenger, and certainly not someone who should have to prove herself. I walked down the aisle in my tailored suit. The fabric hugged me just right, and I could feel the eyes of the passengers on me. Some of them looked curious, others indifferent, but I knew they saw something in me. I was different. A black woman sitting in first class. There was always a certain look, a certain judgment in the air when I walked into spaces like that. But I was used to it. I wasn't just there because I could afford it. I was there because I deserved it. This was my seat. I had earned it. As I reached 1A, I noticed the flight attendant standing by my seat. She was blonde, mid-30s, and had a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She looked me up and down, almost as if she was trying to figure me out. Something in her gaze felt wrong, but I brushed it off. After all, I was just about to sit down, relax, and enjoy my flight. "Excuse me, ma'am," she said, her voice polite but distant. "You're in the wrong seat." I froze for a second, not sure if I had heard her correctly. Wrong seat? This was one of my seat, my assigned seat. I took a step closer and showed her my boarding pass. "No, this is my seat," I said, pointing to the ticket. "I'm in 1A, as it clearly says here." She didn't even look at the boarding pass for more than a second before her gaze shifted back to me. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but this seat is reserved for someone else. I'm going to have to ask you to move to economy." I felt my pulse quicken. Move to economy? I had just paid for first class. I wasn't some random passenger who could just be asked to move. I had earned this seat, and I wasn't about to let anyone take it from me. Not like this. "I paid for this seat," I said slowly, trying to remain calm. "This is my assigned seat. I'm not going anywhere." She didn't seem to care. Her smile didn't falter, but I could see the irritation creeping into her eyes. She stepped aside for a moment, probably to look for a supervisor or someone to back her up. I stood there, waiting. I could feel the eyes of the other passengers on me, some of them watching in anticipation, some trying to pretend they weren't paying attention. But I wasn't going to back down. Not this time. A few minutes later, the captain appeared. He was tall, in his late 40s, dressed in a sharp uniform, looking like someone used to being in charge. He approached me with a glance that barely met my eyes before he turned to the attendant. "What seems to be the problem here?" he asked, his voice authoritative but dismissive. He was already assuming I was the one at fault. "I'm in my seat," I said, standing up straight. "I was told to move to economy because my seat was reserved. But this is my assigned seat." The captain didn't seem to care about the details. He glanced down at my boarding pass for a moment, then back at me, as if I were the one who was mistaken. "You're in the wrong seat, ma'am. I'll have to ask you to move." I could feel my blood boiling. I had worked too hard to be treated like this. I had fought against every stereotype, every limitation that the world tried to place on me. And now, here I was being told I didn't belong in first class because of my race, my gender, and my position. "I'm not moving," I said firmly. "I paid for this seat. I am not going to the back of the plane." The captain stared at me for a moment, probably expecting me to cave, but I wasn't going to. I had done the work. I had earned my place. He looked at the flight attendant, who had taken a step back, clearly uncomfortable, and then sighed, clearly not wanting to deal with it. "Fine," he muttered. "I'll get the head of customer service." I stood there, arms crossed, my heart pounding. This wasn't just about a seat. It was about respect. It was about showing them that I belonged, that I had every right to occupy that space. The head of customer service arrived a few minutes later. She was a woman in her 40s, well-dressed and composed, but I could tell she wasn't expecting this. When she walked up to me, I could see the recognition in her eyes. She knew what was happening. "I'm so sorry, ma'am," she said, her voice dripping with practiced politeness. "It seems there's been some confusion. We'll get this sorted out immediately." But I wasn't interested in their empty apologies. I wasn't interested in being placated. I wanted accountability. I wanted someone to understand what I had just gone through. I had worked too hard to be treated like this. "No," I said, my voice steady but forceful. "I don't want your apology. I want accountability." Her eyes widened in surprise. She hadn't expected me to respond like that. I'm afraid there's nothing I can do right now, ma'am. We have a flight to catch." I shook my head. "This isn't just about a flight. It's about respect. It's about recognizing that I belong here, just as much as anyone else." The tension in the cabin was thick now. Everyone was watching. Some were pretending not to care, but I knew they were paying attention. I wasn't just fighting for myself. I was fighting for everyone who had ever been told they didn't belong. A few minutes later, I made my decision. It was a decision I never thought I would have to make. But the way I had been treated, how they had dismissed me so casually, had made it clear. This wasn't just an issue of one flight. This was part of something much bigger. "I'm done," I said, my voice calm but resolute. "I'm filing a formal complaint, and I want this entire crew replaced. The captain, the flight attendant, the head of customer service. I want accountability for what happened today." The head of customer service seemed stunned. The flight attendant stood frozen, not knowing what to do. But I didn't care. I had made my decision. I was not going to let this go. The captain, who had been standing off to the side, didn't say anything. He had no words left. By the time we landed in New York, I had already sent a formal complaint to the airline. I had made it clear that I would not stand by and let this happen again. The airline called me within hours, apologizing profusely. But I wasn't interested in apologies. Apologies meant nothing when you had been made to feel small. I had fired the entire cabin crew. It wasn't personal. It was about making sure they knew this kind of behavior was not acceptable. The next few days were a whirlwind. I received calls from the airline, trying to smooth things over. They offered compensation, but I wasn't interested. The money didn't matter to me. What mattered was respect. What mattered was that I had stood up for myself, and that I had made it clear that I would never let anyone treat me like I didn't belong. That day, I didn't just reclaim my seat. I reclaimed my dignity. I reclaimed my power. And I was never going to let anyone take that away from me.